This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin the Wednesday edition. It is VSiN By The Books. I'm Dave Ross here, downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. He is our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in Cleveland, Ohio, getting ready to hit the road. Are you getting on the road like right when we sign off today? It's boom, we're going down south to Athens.
Packing up the lights, packing up the studio, getting ready to head down to Georgia, and then we'll set up tomorrow a little live and in living color, By The Books remote. I'll jump on with you guys at some point on Friday morning, give you the lay of the land as we get the Athens Regional underway. So a lot of excitement, a lot of great teams. I know our Daily Dime today for people that are wanting a crash course in what to look for upcoming when Friday afternoon comes around. We'll get everyone informed about it. So looking forward to it, buddy. Going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great trip for you. And one of my favorite songs of all time is "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" by Charlie Daniels Band. One of my all-time faves, the best fiddle song ever recorded. We're going to have great lineup here on this Wednesday. Paul Campingiri is going to join us as well. We wonder if it is all but over now. It really feels like in the NBA and the NHL to get to the finals in those respective Eastern and Western Conference finals. We'll see if there's any drama left there before we get to the Stanley Cup final with Paul. Earlier on, we're going to take a look at the Falcons and how many L's are in the ATL when we break down their schedule coming up a little bit later on this morning. Adam Burke's going to join us in hour number 3, our VSiN managing editor, talk some Major League Baseball. And then, of course, it's Wednesdays with Wes as we get ready for the Memorial. You've been doing, I thought with Matt Humans on the program yesterday, he mentioned how astute you are at doing the weather, Jensen. And we might have some rain today over there in Ohio, but shouldn't affect the course come Thursday and beyond?
Yeah, a little pro-am this morning here. Really a neat conglomerate of some celebrities, athletes, dignitaries, if you will, and just a little sprinkle here in Northeast Ohio this morning. I'm sure it'll burn off down there in Central Ohio and Dublin. So the weather looks immaculate for these, at least the first and second round. Be a little bit warmer over the weekend, but mid-70s into the low 80s Saturday and Sunday. Perfect conditions. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll find out if we can handle the truth a little bit later on. A lot of golf information in the last 24 hours. I don't know if it's going to steal highlights and headlines, that's for sure, but there's a lot to get to here on this Wednesday. So without further ado, let's get to it. Today's edition of Highlights and Headlines.
Help your bottom line with today's highlights and headlines.
All right, as Brandon Valesky has put out, Dune 3. I didn't see the original with Sting, but I know Timothée Chalamet is the big star now with Dune 2, with the remake. But 3, not so good for Chalamet and the New Yorkers and Ben Stiller. They got to leave the arena very unhappy yesterday. Tyrese Halliburton, I was told by national media, Jensen, that he's not a star, right? He's just a jag, just a guy, right? Just another dude. That dude had a massive night last night as the Pacers run roughshod over the Knicks to take a commanding 3-1 lead. 130-121 is the final, but really he was the story. Triple-double, almost had it at halftime with 32, 12, and 15, and then he chipped in 4 steals. And oh, by the way, nary a turnover in doing that triple-double with the 4 steals. So 9-point win. It never even felt like it was really that close. I know the Knicks got it down to 6 there midway through the fourth quarter. They cover that 3. It sails well over the 219 total that we talked about yesterday. Kind of that was our lean and our look before we got to the window here last night on that. But what's your takeaway from it? Because mine is Halliburton looked the part of a bona fide budding superstar.
Agreed. And, it was one of our handicaps maybe a week or so ago before the Eastern Conference Finals started, Dave, was that if you felt the Pacers could continue the magical run in not only getting to this point, but then beating the Knicks and potentially winning the NBA Finals, that Tyrese Halliburton would be a Finals MVP and maybe the strongest candidate from the Pacers side. So if you got him well into the double digits, right, before this Eastern Conference Final got underway, you're sitting pretty right now because he is the story for this Pacers club. Now up 3-1, Atreides, Timothy Chalamet, Spike Lee, everyone else there courtside getting overshadowed by Pat McAfee, Triple H. Great to see that the Indiana dignitaries showed out. But I think overall, Halliburton has been the man. But we would be remiss if we don't mention Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
30 big-time points yesterday and no answer inside. I thought Reggie Miller made a great point about how there was no answer for him. And there really hasn't been, Dave, inside for the Knicks against Siakam. And because of the foul issues with Karl Anthony Towns and how Tom Thibodeau has had to try and mix up the rotations, the starting lineups, what have you, they've really had a front court that has gotten whatever they've wanted. And you talked about the score. Michelle and I are sitting there watching it last night, and she goes, "This is like a track meet." I said, "Yep." We said, "Hey, if the Pacers are going to do this, they got to run and gun." They mentioned in the postgame, you got to make it a track meet. 78 points in the first quarter. That's exactly how they had it drawn up.
And here's what Halliburton said after the game. He said, "I was just trying to be aggressive, just trying to play my best. I felt like I let the team down in game 3. I could have been so much better. I felt like I responded the right way today." And that was, we do this exercise here of kind of trying to get inside the heads so we can make it actionable. That's why we said, boy, they're not going to let the foot down on this one. And that was why we said, man, that over feels like a 220 and a half. That's the way to go. That if the Pacers are going to play at pace. Now, we'll find out how good the shooting could be. The Knicks defense has no answer, as you mentioned, inside, outside here. Nembhard didn't even get going yesterday. They didn't need him out of the 5 starters yesterday. Neesmith was very good again. We saw the late knee with Cat. We'll see how Karl Anthony Towns is going to be feeling before Game 5. But Jensen, really, it just feels like they're going to wear these guys out by attrition. And first unit, second unit, they don't change how they play. And they're going to, if this goes into an OKC, Indiana type of, it'd be very fascinating to see that defense against this offense, because maybe we thought they didn't have the star power, but if Tyrese Halliburton is emerging right before our eyes, and oh, by the way, did win Olympic gold with our team US of A, so he's been in some big-time spots here. I'm starting to think maybe people have devalued in the marketplace Indiana, and they're certainly looking late to the party because it does feel like the better team against the Knicks at this juncture.
And ultimately, I think we find out a lot about New York here on the flip side, where you actually got a nice, well-rounded conglomerate outside of Jalen Brunson, right? And so credit where it's due. Mikal Bridges has 4 threes in a 17-point effort. OG Anunoby, actually, the second half, I thought he was going to be that guy that got their run started in the fourth quarter when they started closing the gap a bit. And then even, where Karl Anthony Towns was, I just wonder from a foul perspective, like, how are they going to try and limit it? Josh Hart coming off the bench and still fouling out of that game, pretty remarkable. But a lot of that predicated because Benedict Mathurin was phenomenal.
He was good.
You talk about just an influx of energy, Dave. That was a difference maker for the Pacers. They took some body blows right there in the second half, and the Knicks came back. And then Benedict Mathurin kind of came in over the top and allowed them to extend and escape.
If you get that out of Mathurin, they're going to be a really tough out for the Knicks to try to come back from a 3-1 deficit here. So it has been done. It's rare. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the program, but not looking good for the Knicks. And then you get Mathurin going a little bit. Oh, boy. Could be problems here for the Knicks trying to force at least a Game 6 after potentially winning in Game 5 tomorrow night back in the Garden. How about an apology for Stuart Skinner? Do we collectively owe him one? Because we'd always talked about how, this guy's not so good early in a series, and then he's really good late. He's been really good in this one from beginning to end, minus that third period in Game 1. But it's another Stuart Skinner stellar performance, and the Oilers get it done. They get a couple empty netters to really make this one look a little bit more lopsided than it was. 4-1's the final, and now they have a 3-1 lead. We got some great nuggets from Jonathan Davis. We'll go over a little bit later too, Jensen, but I don't want to say it. So I said to JD, I said, it feels over. He said, put a fork in him. Like, he feels like, man, Dallas, if you can't beat Skinner, good luck matching their offense, right? If the goaltending, and Ottinger was very good last night. He really was. But Skinner was better. Like Jensen, we talk about Indiana, you get Mathurin going. If you get Stuart Skinner outperforming Jake Ottinger, how do you beat the Oilers?
Well, and again, just the idea yesterday, and shout out to JD too, who gave us a great idea of taking the puck line both ways. So you're a winner again. I think one of the nuggets from JD that stands out to me most notably, when you look at Dallas's losses, it's not been close games. 3 or more goals, all their losses, not just this round, Dave, for the postseason. All of their losses by 3 or more goals. That to me is more indicative. Like, okay, if you keep it close, maybe you steal one of those close games, and that ultimately puts you over the top. That ain't it, man. And someone I was joking with you. Someone probably hung signs in the Edmonton dressing room of, "Hey, Stewart, it's game 4." And it was like game 2 or game 3. So whatever mind tricks they did, he's believed that it's later in the series.
Maybe Oz the Mentalist did something. I mean, we don't know. Maybe he tricked Stuart Skinner into thinking it was later in the series. And by the way, from JD, as you mentioned here, the Stars have not scored on the road in the first period in the entire postseason. So nary a goal on enemy ice. So you're always kind of behind the 8 ball on the road. The good news is, theoretically, they would have 2 of the last 3 if they could force a Game 7 back in Dallas. Of course, Game 5 would be back there. But there would have to be a Game 6 in Edmonton, and that would be problematic if you keep falling behind as they did last night. They did tie it at 1, but then you're down 2-1 going to the third period. Very nip-tucked the rest of the way until those 2 empty netters late in that game. But Dallas now really up against it as well. Very Knicks-like scenario in the NHL with the NBA. When we come back, let's talk about those games that are going to happen tonight and see if we see any comebacks here. Maybe there's one that we didn't see coming. Could be a historic nature in the NHL. I don't know if the T-Wolves can get off the deck. We'll discuss that. That's all next as we just get it started right here on VSiN By The Books.
VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis here on this Wednesday edition because Jensen will be out of town on Friday. We're going to move some things up in the week calendar for tomorrow. So just a little tease out there for the viewing and listening public. We're going to do our June best bets here for Major League Baseball. Jensen, we're going to do that tomorrow. Will we have enough time to adequately prepare before you take off to get that done on tomorrow's show? What do you think?
I'll probably be doing it on the plane, outside of looking at Binghamton's pitching staff and also the Go Pokes, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State pretty good. I know we're going to talk a little college baseball coming up in Daily Diamond, but yes, I will be ready to go for win totals in June tomorrow's show.
I will. I don't want to lead the witnesses here, but I did a lot of yeoman's work on that yesterday, and I've got 2 already that I've earmarked. And let's say one of those that we earmarked last month was Philadelphia, and they get a win yesterday over Atlanta, so they're still in that catbird seat right now to cash in May. Who's going to cash in the NBA tonight? Could it be OKC, Minnesota? You don't want to say it's over, but when you look historically at teams trying to rally from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA, it has been done 13 times, Jensen. This is back since 1947. No, I did not cover any of those games in 1947. It was last accomplished, done twice by the Nuggets back in 2020. Came back and beat the Jazz. In second round, they beat the Clips back 5 years ago. And the Rockets almost put it off against Golden State this year, but could not do that. Of course, you remember. Now, Stanley Cup, again, we've got some 3-0s that have happened. Again, we mentioned this yesterday. It would go back to 1942 with the Maple Leafs. Carolina would be attempting to do that. Islanders did it back in 1975. The Flyers did it in 2010, and the Kings did it back in 2014. But again, it's now 3-1 technically, and 32 teams have come back from that since 1918. But again, the Hurricanes would actually be trying to do it from one extra ladder back. Let's start off with the T-Wolves against the Thunder here, and it does feel like right now this is all OKC all the time. That defense that we've talked about, and then SGA playing the way he did in that 40 burger to get up 3-1. Now you're back home with a chance to eliminate Minnesota. it does have to be Ant, doesn't it? You're getting 8.5. The total is 220.5. We talked about, I believe, how passive he looked. And I know we want to credit OKC's defense, and you should to a degree. But there's also that level, Jensen, of, man, I just got to be the best. I got to do what SGA did. I got to take over the game. And if we lose and the T-Wolves go down on this sinking ship, I want to make sure he's taking 25 shots. Do you expect that type of effort tonight out of Ant-Man, win, lose, or draw?
Yeah, I would say that if you have to go down, you go down swinging, right? And making sure that in that first quarter, it was very similar to what he did in game 3. What do you have, like 15, 17 points just in a quarter? And it was that blitzkrieg that really, was the haymaker that the Thunder could never recover from. So not only that, but some of the supporting cast has to be there as well. I was just looking at some player props here as far as the points and things go. I don't see anything outside of the ordinary that would be like, oh, you know what? Maybe you have a guy or two that could jump up. I think, again, your stars have to be stars, and that makes sense with targeting Anthony Edwards in that points and perhaps laddering it as well, because you would think that he's got to have at least 30 if people around him aren't doing anything above what has been expected or performed for the series. Tell you a couple of ones that are interesting for me. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and we know that the points have been one to back as well, but how about the rebounds and assists, that combo? Seeing it at $1.40 right now, over 12.5. That's something that I would take a look at too, just in case the T-Wolves are like, all right, well, we have to do whatever we can to try and limit. Shai's going to get his, but how many of his do we want him to have opportunities to get? So maybe pivoting a little bit into more assists and rebounds there. Jalen Williams also in that category would be one I would target, over 11 or over 10.5, I should say. That's minus $1.35 at DraftKings. You can get over 11.5 if you're feeling frisky a little bit, plus $1.10 at FanDuel. So those are a couple of props that stood out to me right away, just looking at this one. But I think overall your headline is correct. It has to be Anthony Edwards all the time, anywhere, but don't just be chucking threes left and right. Like, really smart shots, try and get some people in foul trouble and be effective, especially in that first quarter.
I will say this too. One play that I was turned on to by JVT here. He's been on Cason Wallace a lot in this series. His total was points, rebounds, and assists was 11.5. I played that in game 4. He got over that total. They have adjusted the books a little bit now, up to 13 or more, which is exactly the number he had in the last game at minus $1.20. He's getting those minutes, too. He had 28 minutes in that ball game the other night. So even though he's coming off the bench, he's getting starter minutes, if you will. And again, back to, hate to beat the dead horse on Ant, but you only had 13 shots in the game, 5 of 13 with that 16-point performance. And, you didn't really live at the free throw line. You did get there 7 times, 5 out of 7 from the line. But, McDaniels is taking more shots than you with 15. You got Alexander Walker off the bench had 15 shots. DiVincenzo had 11. Like, you can't be in the same volume as two guys off the bench. You've got to be that volume guy here and get it up there 20 times if need be. So I'll be looking to play some of those Ant props tonight here, unless they get really juiced out of the moon here. That's probably the way I'm going to attack that game tonight as well. Don't know that I love the 8.5 here, catching it on the road. It obviously will feel like desperation. They're going to have to play much better defense than they've been able to do here. So again, it feels like it's that JVT coronation we've been talking about and waiting for in the Invitational in the Western Conference, and they could get to that Western Conference final with a win tonight, which they are expected to get. Same could have been said for the Panthers to get the sweep the other night down there in Sunrise, Florida. They didn't get it done, and now they go on the road here to Carolina to take on the Hurricanes. They are small favorites to get this done tonight, Jensen. But what about that idea? And I know it's different in baseball, obviously, because you got a best of 5, best of 7 scenario. And sometimes you go, man, when we're up 3-0, we want to put them away. I'm not saying this is going to be Red Sox Yankees from many moons ago, where the Sox got off the deck famously and came back from 0-3 and beat the Yanks. But when you let a team hang around, if you're the Panthers, you don't want this to get back to Florida. Do you think it ends tonight?
If you're Charles Barkley and company, guarantee it that Carolina keeps the series alive and goes back to Sunrise. But okay, we kind of joked, was it the gentleman's sweep yesterday, or with Florida taking a day off and be like, all right, it's happened a time or two throughout the postseason. Then, all right, we'll kind of get our acts back together here. Here's the thing. I had said yesterday, and this is channeling the inner athlete, make it a one-game season. That's all you can do. If you look ahead, that's where you get into trouble. And that's why I think, or if you think you're trying to win 3-4 games in one game, that's where things speed up on you. So I feel that the first period is so critical. So again, from a wagering perspective, are you looking at, the money line there for Carolina, especially at home? Is there that urgency factor to it? You would assume so. From a prop perspective, I think you got to target, again, so we talk about stars being stars here from Minnesota, Anthony Edwards. I think Sam Bennett is going to be the guy on the other side here for Florida. Like, you look to your guys to try and, quiet that barn here a little bit. So I would look at, and it hasn't been real solid here throughout the series, but Sam Bennett maybe on his over for shots on goal, minus $1.25 for 3 or more shots on goal. I do think that one's a way to look. Svechnikov, I think, for Carolina to have a point.
Yeah.
Minus $1.25. I'm just looking at some of those other ways to maybe attack this. If indeed it is not the side that you feel confident in, there's a couple of player props. I think those are good ways to attack.
So if I get a text from my nephew Justin today before this game, says, Uncle Dave, give it to me straight, is it over? And I told him, it's over. I love you. You're my nephew. I'm rooting for you in Carolina, but they're not winning Game 4. Then they not only win Game 4, they shut him out in Game 4. Should Uncle Dave just say, you know what? Man, we've seen crazier things happen. But you mentioned channeling that inner athlete. You guys in clubhouses, I'm sure in the rinks today, you're not openly talking about it, right? You're just like, hey, man, like, we're still, as long as we're here, like, we're still kicking, right? This thing, and our mentalities, we're still here. So there's a reason why we're still here.
For sure. And it's the pride part. I mean, if no more present than in hockey, right?
Yeah.
For teams that don't want to be embarrassed. I mean, there's just something about having to stay on the ice in your home barn and wait to shake hands with a team that's going to play for the cup. I could think, obviously, losing in the Stanley Cup final, the worst feeling ever for a hockey player. But that one's got to be the second worst, especially on your home ice. A team goes in and just pummels you, and I can't see Rod Brindamore's group just laying down tonight.
Yeah, great point. And again, remember Connor McDavid, that look last year when they lost Game 7 to Florida, it looked like he just didn't even want to take off the skates. You see the way he's playing this year with that kind of energy of remembering what happened. Profit X, check them out. If you haven't done so, here's the NBA playoffs are winding down. They're offering the best odds all playoff long, and it still continues. They're a peer-to-peer sports exchange group available in 40 or more states. You're going to be able to make your sports picks against other groups of fans rather than the books. Exchanges guarantee you the best odds on average by 10 to 20%. You can even request your own odds. Download Profit X today. Use the code VSIN. Earn up to $200 in profit cash over your very first month. The Daily Diamond is up next.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books, here on this Wednesday edition, and we've got a little bit of NFL talk coming up in the next segment. We'll break down the ATL. And, Jensen, I don't know if Brandon did that because you are heading down to the great state of Georgia, but we are going to break down the Falcons coming up in the next segment, talk some Circus Survivor and also some win totals there before you make those wagers. But without further ado, because you're going to be on the road, we've got a very special edition of today's Daily Diamond. All right, you're heading down to Athens. Tell us the theme today, obviously with the College World Series in mind, how you broke down this special edition of the Daily Diamond.
All right, so, today a lot of the teams will travel to their respective destinations for regionals, get all set up in their hotels, and then each of the 4 teams at those respective regionals will get a workout in. Tomorrow we'll meet with the coaches and the media will have their chance to get all the insights. But right now, some intriguing markets, and just happened to be looking on FanDuel yesterday. The theme for this one is choose your fighter.
Ooh.
Okay, and so you can get a conglomerate of teams within the respective conferences that are in the College World Series postseason. So right now, and this is no shock, the SEC would be the conference of a champion, almost a $3 favorite there, minus 295. ACC, an intriguing one at plus 430. And there's a lot of people out there, Dave, that are circling the North Carolina Tar Heels as the favorite out of the ACC to be that team that could hoist the trophy. They're plus 950 at DraftKings right now. So if you wanted to single them out of the ACC, I wouldn't be mad at you for that one, because they all around one of the best teams in college baseball. But if you're in that ACC market and you want to get the likes of a Florida State, which would be great, a Clemson, who's 40-1, Georgia Tech 45-1, Duke 70-1 will be in my region down there in Athens. They'll be the 2 seed, with Georgia being the 1 seed. It's a different way to go about it. So if you don't have a real firm take on, who you like out of the SEC, then the ACC is not a bad way to pivot, because if you get any of those teams to the College World Series final, basically, it's a best of 3 there to win the national championship. You could essentially have a decent hedge. If it is an SEC team, great. If it's an ACC team versus an ACC team, congratulations, you're a winner. So I think that's a different way to kind of attack it for maybe the common fan who's just now parachuting in to watch this College World Series playoff begin.
You read my mind, because I was going to ask you, is the fear here, if you play one of those other conferences here, whether it's the ACC or beyond, that we get an all SEC final? Like, how likely a scenario do you see that in your crystal ball?
Yeah, and I mean, you're looking at 8 total teams that will make the College World Series, and I mean, looking at the favorites, you've got really North Carolina as the only one within the top 8 as far as the betting odds are concerned. Everyone else is an SEC team, and there's 8 SEC regional hosts. So if that gives you an idea, half the field is going to have to go through an SEC town. So just something to factor in when you look at your handicap before play begins on Friday.
Something we were talking about a little bit during the break is, do we give Bill Murray all the credit in the world for using the term Cinderella story? He owns it now from Caddyshack, right?
He does. And, as much as we see that, the teams that you try and find for your bracket busters in the basketball iteration of the NCAA postseason, there have been times where it has occurred here in the baseball side of it. So here's what I did. So bear with us if you're watching on VSiN, on the VSiN Watch at VSiN.com. And for those listening, Sirius Channel 158, here's what I did. I kind of went through every region and tried to pick a team that, if you like the upset potential, then I just picked a team maybe that you could circle. I'll kind of verbalize, Dave, the ones that I think here, at least on page 1 for our listening audience as well. So if you go to Clemson, I circled the Clemson regional as we like to say in World Cup terms, kind of a region of death or a group of death, right? Because it's so loaded. And Clemson was one of those regions that I looked at and said, okay, if the host wasn't going to win it, then maybe a team like Kentucky, another SEC team, who has had a pretty solid year, maybe a little bit down at the end, plus 320 to win that regional. So again, just to advance to super regionals, not a bad price, a little over 3-1. The Conway regional, and that is Coastal Carolina, who is the host down there. They're the 1 seed. Florida, the Gators, again, are a team that has been hard charging here in the second half of the season. They're plus $1.15. So that tells you how the market respects what Florida has done. Usually you'll see, Dave, upwards of 3-1 for a 2 seed to try and knock off a 1 seed in advance. So Florida at plus $1.15 was one I circled in the Conway regional. If we go to the second page, there's also a couple of other regions here that I do feel are quite viable. If you look at the Los Angeles regional, that's UCLA, who's going to be the host. UC Irvine, and even at plus 270 to win the region, I would go more to win the College World Series at 75-1, or even to make the College World Series, Dave, at 7-1. They are a really, really good team. Not a lot of national recognition just yet, but that's a regional that if they win, there is going to be a lot of tailwind for them. So I think they are definitely live to be able to win that regional. So I think those are just a handful of them. And again, those will be available on VSiN.com as far as options for people. If you don't think the 1 seed, and just food for thought, Dave, the 1 seed in regionals usually advance to super regionals right around 62 to 65% of the time. So just factor that in when you're looking at some of these upset potentials.
And very quickly, back to Irvine for a second. Instead of playing them at 270 to get out of there from LA, you do like the longer shots at 7-1 to make it to the College World Series. Do you think that's a better value play than playing the 270 to get out of that region?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll bring up who they match up against here in the super regional possibility. But again, you're looking at potential to, not only be able to monetize those tickets, but also to really find an opportunity that if indeed they do get there. And that's why I think if you want to add in the 75-1, that's as good a long shot. Just with how well-rounded that group is, they can pitch really well. I just feel like they have so much promise here in that regional to not only be able to knock off UCLA, but if they potentially match up, and I'm scrolling to find it now as we speak here, but yeah, they are the number 15 regional. Yep. Yeah, and they would match up against the number 2 regional, and that would be the Austin regional in Texas.
Woo. Florida Gulf Coast scenario against Georgetown, 15-2. Little homage to Bon Jovi to wrap up the Daily Diamond today?
Living on a prayer, my friend. And yes, we have had Cinderella. It's been a minute in the College World Series, but 3 times, Dave, a 4 seed out of a regional. So kind of equate that in NCAA basketball terminology. So that's like a 12 seed and beyond to make it to the Final Four. Okay, so it's only happened 3 times since we've gone to the 16 regional format. The last time it's happened, the Fresno State Bulldogs in 2008, not only did they make it, Dave, they won. They won the whole thing. So FanDuel has a prop market, any 4 seed to reach Omaha at 9-1. So buyer beware. As I look at the field, Dave, there's not a 4 seed I would want to hitch my wagon to right now. I mean, you're looking upwards of 35-1 to make it to Omaha for some of these markets. But hey, if you like one of them to spoil the party, you get all 16 for the 9-1 price. Totally up to you.
I think I like your UC Irvine play even better after seeing those numbers here, how hard it is for those 4 seeds to advance there. So again, if you are going out, because Jensen's going to be there, our crew is going to be there from VSiN, we will be in Omaha, hitting the road in June for that College World Series. Going to be live June 12th through the 14th, broadcasting straight from Rocco's, the iconic home of the Jell-O Shot Challenge. You're going to catch money moves, follow the money. Of course, Jensen will be there for us here on By the Books, live from Omaha. We're going to bring you the sights, sounds, and best bets from the entire tournament. And if you're in the neighborhood, please stop by and say hello. Jensen, have you been to Rocco's? Have you been to Omaha before, or will this be your first excursion out there as well?
This will be my first excursion to Rocco's. It's not my first excursion to Omaha, but I was there winning a championship in AAA with the Reno Aces. So this will be so fun. It's always been a pilgrimage, that I've wanted to have. So thrilled, and big thanks to everyone at Circa, of course, Steve Cohen, Bill AD for making this possible. So this is a little bucket list item for me to be able to go. So can't wait to bring you guys the sights and sounds being out there as well.
Very, very cool. What's your takeaway from being there as a player, winning in Omaha? What's your best memory there?
The old Rosenblatt Stadium. It's like old Yankee Stadium. There'll be nothing like it, man. TD Ameritrade, the new place is an absolute gem, but there's just something about old Rosenblatt and the ping of the old metal bats. Heading down to Athens after the show. We're going to head down to the ATL after the break. Come on back, talking Falcons. It's next here at VSiN By The Books.
VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis here on this Wednesday edition. A lot of Georgia theme today with you traveling to Athens, Georgia. Right after the show tomorrow, going to be a lot of fun having you down there tomorrow before your duties take over on Friday. But I did want to begin, before we talk Falcons here, I got to catch up, of course, with Jeff Schwartz. Always love Jeff's perspective here on GM Shuffle that we do each and every week wherever you get your podcast. And we were talking a little bit about Brandon Cooks now, the veteran receiver, leaving Dallas, down there in New Orleans. Got all these young quarterbacks, 2 second-year guys, and a potential rookie here in Tyler Shuck. And he was asked, how it's all going to play out, and basically saying this is going to be fun from a veteran's perspective, and really didn't tip his hand as to who he thought the best quarterback was. Jeff had an interesting take, Jensen, on what maybe veterans are lending to coaching staffs when they look at a quarterback competition.
A lot of times it's approached in this way where we'll listen to you, which I think is what they should do. Listen to the players, but don't do what the players say. I mean, we have spouses, right? Like they listen to us, we listen to them, and we end up doing what we want anyways. Like, I think that's like, you just want to feel heard, right? You want to feel heard. I want to feel heard, right? I give my wife advice. She does whatever she wants anyways, but she heard my advice though, right? So all that matters to me. I gave you my advice. So I think this is what they do, right? Like you spend all this time evaluating the quarterbacks in the meeting room, on the field. And you should listen to your veteran guys.
All right, so Jensen, if you get called into Skip's office and you've been around the block a little bit and you got this young whippersnapper coming up from AAA, and that's what it kind of feels like. Well, are they listening to Brandon Cooks as the receiver who he really wants to be the quarterback, to Jeff's point? Or is it really just veterans have earned that time and that equity, and your voice should be heard, but maybe not always fully listened to?
Jeff echoes a lot of what some of us quieter veterans might have been like. And again, full disclosure, like I was one of the young hothead rookies. I thought I was, the best thing since sliced bread, and got a little talking to from some of the older guys. I was, hey, listen, why don't you be seen and not heard? Okay, go do your thing. Now, I was one of 3 rookies when I got called up in 2007, so I had to grow up real quickly, and I feel very fortunate for as many veteran guys as we had on our team, a lot of experience. It was always funny to me watching the veterans go at each other sometimes. Like it's like the parents fighting.
Oh, right.
Just like, oh no, like,
uncomfortable.
Are we gonna be okay? Is everything all right? Like, are we going to be okay? But no, he's right. You have certain guys, and I don't know if it's always the guys that have never won or have never gotten to a Super Bowl or, things of that nature. You guys have never played for a championship. When you played there, you kind of know what it takes. And I don't know, maybe it just kind of, gives you a different appreciation for what the job is for coaches and the coaching staff. So again, teach their own, but I agree with Jeff. It's just one of those things of, okay, yes, there are certain guys that have earned the right to say it, but most likely, unless you're a Tom Brady type person, thanks. Go ahead, put your uniform on, get out to practice. Let's go.
Yeah, so we got a lot of young quarterbacks there. There's a young quarterback in Atlanta, in Michael Penix Jr., who's going to be beginning year number 2. They got an old quarterback and a veteran that you'd want to listen to. That'd be Kirk Cousins. But we don't know what the status of Kirk Cousins is going to be potentially as a backup, not showing up for those OTAs down there in the ATL. You look at this win total, it's sitting at 7.5. They did win 8 games a year ago, which surprises me that this total is sitting at 7.5. It is juiced to the over, as I mentioned, at minus $1.40. I look at this thing here, Jensen, and I go, what am I missing? I was impressed with what I saw from Michael Penix. Oh, by the way, if it wasn't for what I think is the worst overtime rule in professional sports, the Falcons could have won the division last year. Remember, they lost the final week of the season in D.C. on Sunday night, and Penix played really well in that game, I thought, at least in the second half. And if you don't win a coin toss, and I won't go on about the overtime rules, but you never get a shot here to try to win that game if you're Atlanta in overtime. What am I missing? Why is this not an overplay here for the Falcons?
I would think that, the front part of that schedule is, outside of the Panther and even the Panthers road division game, the front part of that schedule is pretty daunting. You can even get into column number 2 with the Niners in week 7. I'll just ask, can you pick 4 wins in those first 7 weeks for Atlanta?
I'd like to think that opening. By the way, here's the bugaboo for winning the division, right? And this is why the Buccaneers have been owning these matchups interdivision, right? That's been the problem for everybody else in the NFC South. Buccaneers keep winning the division every year under Todd Bowles because they're winning those divisional games, and they do matter more. That week 1 game is so important for them long term. Before you ever get to a week 8 where you're at New Orleans and you'd hope that the Saints are fighting for Arch Manning at that point, the week 12 matchup at home could be a survivor spot. But to your question, can you get 4 in the, before you get to week 10? That's tough, right? Because that's where you go over to Germany and take on the Colts in a quote-unquote road game. That actually helps you that counts as a road game. Look, obviously the Bills coming to town to the ATL, that's going to be daunting. The Commanders coming, that's going to be daunting. We talked about week 1, that's going to be daunting. Those are all home games. And then the road games, you mentioned the Panthers could be better this year, and we know how good the Vikings were a year ago. And that's week 2 for J.J. McCarthy in the bright whites. And then the week 7 is also a Sunday night football game. I'll tell you this, Jensen, if the Falcons are bad, we're going to see it. Because they got a lot of primetime games in the first 7 weeks. That's 1, 2, 3, and then week 10 in Germany. They're going to be standalone games here 4 out of the first 10 weeks. So get used to seeing the Falcons here on your TV screen. I get it. I see why the league's doing this, Jensen, because I think they feel like if Penix keeps building on what we saw at the end of the second half when they bench Kirk Cousins, they might really have something special at quarterback.
And again, putting my survivor hat on here, I feel like, the NFC South in week 1 is an absolute bloodbath when it comes to survival. Like games that should go the way you think, complete opposite, absolute chaos. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I can remember just absolutely bludgeoning survivor pools in week 1, taking the Bucs and winning in New Orleans. Years ago, Dave, I can't get that. It's not going to shock me if Atlanta's 0-4 headed into Monday Night Football against the Bills. It really won't. I think that there's a possibility there that there are some issues for them to close some games out. And again, outside of week 3, and it's a division game, so who knows, at Carolina, I don't know, man. I cannot back them early until I kind of get an idea of what I can expect week in and week out from Michael Penix Jr. By
the way, the second betting choice, the Buccaneers are even money to win this division, which should tell you everything about Baker Mayfield.
I like that.
And Todd Bowles, yeah. Right? Like the resurrection, I think of both of them. Todd Bowles is the head coach, Baker Mayfield is a quarterback. That's a symbiotic relationship there. The Falcons are the second betting choice at plus 240. The Saints, by the way, the long shot at 10-1. The Panthers getting respect in the marketplace at 4-1. To win this division. So if you don't see this good start coming for the Falcons, a way to possibly handicap them that would be wait and see how they look early. And to Jensen's point, if they don't look good, that win total could drop down to what? 5.5? If they're 0-4, that could be 5.5 all of a sudden. Maybe you hop in on the over at that point if that number drops a little bit. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little bit higher on this team. Raheem Morris, I'll admit it, I'm in the tank for Raheem a little bit. Personally, covered him in D.C., very charismatic guy, easy guy to root for. I will say this, though, if I'm being critical, he did not, I think, handle it very well in year number 1. He's got to be better as a head coach in year number 2 as well. So that is going to be, with a young quarterback, Raheem's going to have to get his chops as a head coach and be better. Like Todd Bowles is getting better as a head coach in Tampa Bay. You got to see that jump down there in the ATL if they're going to make the leap that the Buccaneers have made in the last couple of years. That's for sure. If you don't start your day with VSiN.com, I don't know what you're waiting for. Get up, have your cup of Joe. Check out Wes Reynolds' Memorial Picks. He's going to be joining us here Wednesdays with Wes as well. Hoops Peterson, not just hoops, baseball as well. So Greg's got you covered on the diamond today. T-Wolves Thunder, what are we going to get? That's our Game 4 best bets. That's up there for you. JD, Jonathan Davis, great job on the ice, as he always does. Going to preview Game 5 tonight between the Panthers and the Hurricanes. Steve Makinen, his analytics report. And Mike Samich has got some futures to consider out there from Samo Bomb right there. So get 14 months VSiN Pro for just $199 using the promo code PRO. All you have to do is go to vsin.com/subscribe. Hour number 2 straight ahead in America. Can you handle the truth? We'll find out on the other side.